myself that why is it that I was supposed to act in a particular way, but I ended up doing the exact opposite. So for example, why is it that I know it's namaz time and I need to be at the mosque, but something from within me is telling me that, no, I've got some spreadsheets that I need to finish, and after that I'm going to pray namaz. Why is it? Why does that happen? You know that we do something contrary to what we are supposed to do. So think of a car, okay, a car that is supposed to be driverless. That car is supposed to know when to change lanes because that's how they've designed it. That car is supposed to know what distance to keep between the other cars so that it doesn't crash into them. That car is supposed to know, okay, that if a car is speeding, how it should brake, so the braking system should be on point. Now imagine this car is already prepared and it's ready for the road, it's ready for the motorway to go to London, but when it's on the road, it's doing the exact opposite. Instead of braking when it comes next to other cars, it just goes crashing into them. Instead of going at a particular speed, it's overspeeding. So basically the car is doing opposite to what the designer asked it to do. So similarly with us, we need to ask ourselves, why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us for a particular goal, which is to be His Khalifa on this earth, to maximize our potential on this earth. And yet many times I find myself that I'm doing things that are contrary to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to understand what is going on inside us. So there's a hadith by Imam Ali alayhi salam who said, one who has known himself has reached the greatest of success, Fawdul Akbar, if I'm not mistaken. And then we also have other hadith, for example, Man arafa nafsah, faqad arafa rabbah. Whoever recognizes himself has recognized his Lord. So with this question, inshallah, let us consider our faculties. So as you all know, this is very straightforward. We are made up of the physical aspect and the spiritual aspect. Okay? Every human being is born with these two aspects. So these are our faculties. Now from this we are going to build on, inshallah. So let's start with a verse from the Holy Quran. So this verse is from Surah Mu'minun, verse 13, but I've shown verse 14. And in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beautifully describing the process of how we've been created. And doctors who study embryology right now, so many years later, are coming to discover many of these things which the Quran has pointed out 1,000 years ago, of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us from a sperm into a clot, and then it became bones and flesh, etc., etc. But the key interesting part of this ayah is the last part, where Allah says, ثُمَّ أَنْشَأْنَاهُ خَلْقًا آخَرَ. Allah does not say, ثُمَّ خَلَقْنَاهُ خَلْقًا آخَرَ, which is used in the beginning of the verse, but He says, ثُمَّ أَنْشَأْنَاهُ, which when it was translated, it says, we developed him into another creation. Now Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam has said, that this last part is referring to the breathing of the soul. So the human body, the form of the body is not complete without the soul. So this last part, Allah has added the soul into us, and that's what makes us have these emotions, do all our actions that we do because of this soul, subhanAllah. So this is what this verse is describing, how we have been created. Now let's begin with our physical body, and we won't take very long here, but we know that Islam has placed great emphasis on taking care of our body. Like you have the hadith that cleanliness is part of faith. And then you also have a narration from Usul al-Kafi, where the Holy Prophet ﷺ used to spend more money on perfume rather than food. So just emphasizing the importance of, keeping clean. And also the Prophet used to say you can do asraf, like you shouldn't do asraf only when it comes to perfume. I think Imam said that in one of the Quran classes. So just showing the importance of keeping clean. But we also need to realize that our physical actions have an effect on our spiritual dimension. So we shouldn't just think that whatever we do with our physical body, it stays there. No, it has an effect on our spiritual dimension. So for example, there's a hadith that a woman who is pregnant, when she has dates, the child gets hilm, forbearance. So you see these aspects, these traits of hilm, that is not something physical, but it is within us. But because of a physical action, it has an effect on the spiritual dimension. Or for example, you are told that when you're angry at somebody, and anger is something internal, then you should touch them, like you should make contact with them. And that making contact, that physical contact, has an effect inside you to calm down that anger. Okay, so our physical actions, we should remember, have an effect on our spiritual dimension. So this was the physical dimension. So if you have not been listening to me all this time, it's fine. This is what we mean by three-way connectivity. So our spiritual dimension is made of three components, which is the aql, your intellect, your qalb, and your irada. So inshallah we're going to discuss all these three a bit more. So first of all, my aql, what does the aql do? The aql perceives a truth or understands a truth which it thinks, okay, this thing is true, which makes it differentiate between right and batil. So you can say that your aql is like the light you use to guide you to your path. So for example, my aql tells me that chewing food while I'm eating, I need to chew my food slowly. So that's my aql telling me that, okay, it makes sense that I need to chew my food slowly. Or for example, your aql tells you when I'm sat next to my brothers, it's not good to discuss something bad about a brother who is not available. Ghiba, for example. So that's the aql. Inshallah, we'll give stories in a bit which will make it more clear. The next thing is the qalb. This is where the desires and emotions are formed. This is where our traits such as kindness, anger, arrogance, jealousy, this is where these are formed. So let's give another example. My aql tells me that doing ghiba of a brother is not good. Now my heart comes in, after the aql has thought of this, the heart comes in and says, no, but I like doing ghiba because when I'm sitting next to my brothers and talking about somebody else, I feel like they're enjoying listening to me, so my heart is attracted to it. So over here, your aql and qalb are in conflict. Your aql is saying something else, your qalb is saying something else. Okay? And we've just recited the beautiful Munajat Sha'baniyah. There were so many places where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the qalb and how he's talking about how we need to nurture our spiritual dimension. So for example, this line says, and purging my heart of the impurities of being inattentive to you. So what happens, why is our aql and qalb in conflict? It's because we don't realize our goal. Your aql is saying something else, but your heart is attracted to something else which is taking you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is one of the things we recited in the munajat. And lastly, the irada. What's the irada? This is your motivation, your enthusiasm that makes you go do an action. So if we give an example, I'm going to give my own example when I was preparing this lecture. So I was preparing this lecture, my aql was telling me, you need to prepare this lecture on time so that you can deliver it in the best possible way, inshallah. But at the same time, there was a football match going on, which I was not supposed to watch. And my heart wanted to watch football. So my heart was telling me, okay, you can watch a bit of football and you can continue this lecture later. But my aql was saying, no, but you need to. So I was trying to pay attention to this thought. My aql was saying, no, but you need to finish this in time. But my qalb was saying, no, you can watch a bit of football. You're attracted to it. Because my qalb was so attracted to it, it became a motivation for me to watch football. And I actually ended up watching football. So when your aql tells you something, but your heart is attracted to something else, this becomes such a strong attraction that it motivates you to do what your qalb was telling you. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Very well.
And then we can give another example whereby your qalb and your irada are in conflict. So initially we said your aql, your intellect and your heart are in conflict. Now we are saying it could be a case your qalb and your irada are in conflict. So for example, my aql is telling me it's good to pray namaz on time. Okay, my heart comes in, it says, yes, I like doing that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. I'm attracted to praying namaz on time. So what do you need to do? You need to act. So your irada needs to step in and say, okay, so let's go to the mosque. But your heart is saying, no, but I love praying namaz on time. So let's go pray. But I love praying on time. So your heart is keeping on saying, I love praying. Your aql has told you praying on time is good. Your qalb is saying, yes, I love praying, but you're not acting. Why? Because that attraction is not strong enough to make you act. So your qalb is saying, let's go pray. Your qalb is saying, I love praying namaz. Okay, so then act, brother. No, but I love praying on time. By just saying it, it won't happen. You need to actually go and act. So this is where the enthusiasm or the motivation is not strong enough for you to act. So inshallah, we're going to give a story over here, and it might make things a bit more clear. And we've been listening to lectures by Dr. Mubarak, alhamdulillah, on the 12th Imam. So inshallah, this is one of the stories that might make this a bit more clear. So this story is of a person who used to make soap. Okay? And one day, two people go to him, two youths apparently go to him, and they say, we want kafur and sidr. You know, when someone dies, you give them a ghusl of kafur and sidr. So they tell him, brother, we want kafur and sidr. So he looks at them and he says, these people look different. They look like noble men. I've never seen these kind of people before. So he tells them, okay, can you tell me first who you are? So these people say, does it matter? Just give us the kafur and sidr, brother, and let us continue on our journey. But he says, no, I need to get to the bottom of this. You need to tell me who you are. So when he kept insisting, these guys tell him that we are people who are usually close to the 12th Imam. So when they tell him that, and they tell him that the 12th Imam has sent us to your shop so we can get these things, now he's even more confused. He says, the Imam has sent them to me. Now I need to meet the Imam. So they say, no, brother, we're not allowed to take you there. He says, no, please, please, you need to take me. He said, sorry, we can't take you to the Imam. When he was insisting so much, he said, okay, take me to the Imam. If the Imam doesn't want to see me, then it's fine, I'll come back. They say, okay, you're insisting, let's go. So they go with this brother. While they're going, they reach a place where they had to cross a water body. So now he's confused. He's seeing these two people are walking in water. He's telling them, what do I do now? So they tell him, recite Bismillah and do the, take the wasila of your hujjah and start walking. So he does that and he sees him and he starts walking on the water. SubhanAllah, he continues walking. They reach a point where the clouds are starting to come out now and it's almost going to rain. After a few minutes it actually starts raining, and at this point a thought comes into his mind that, oh, there was a bar of soap that I left on top of the roof of my shop and I wanted it to dry my clothes, but now it's going to get wet. The moment he got this thought, he starts drowning. The people tell him, brother, what are you thinking about? So he says, okay, what do I do now? So they tell him, okay, get up again, say Bismillah, do the wasila of your hujjah and continue walking. He does that, he continues walking. Then from a distance, he sees a tent, and that tent is so radiant, there's so much light from it, but he can't go. So these people get up and they go to the Imam, but he can only hear the conversation. So he hears these people telling the Imam that this brother was insisting so much to come, we have brought him to see you. You know what the Imam says? It breaks the heart. The Imam said, the one whose thoughts are on his soap and not on us has no business with us. So now we need to ask ourselves, that person's business was his soap. For me, my university life, for maybe all of you, your work life, okay? Why do we do our actions? Like, my university life, do I study because I want to become the best at what I do so that other people can be happy? Or do I do it so that my Imam can be happy? So we need to always pay attention to the Imam. If we really want to be with the Imam, all our thoughts should be in line with the Imam. So this story shows us how the aql of this person wanted to meet the Imam, but maybe his heart was not connected so much. That's why he lost attention. And that one moment he lost attention, it cost him dearly. Right, so once you have established that, there's some few problems we can discuss to do with the aql. So for example, there are two problems. The aql doesn't understand the depths of things. The aql only understands universal principles. The aql can't go into detail. So the aql can't tell you why taking the Quran and reciting it brings me closer to Allah. The aql doesn't understand these details. Or for example, sometimes the aql makes a mistake about a reality. So the aql thinks that, for example, okay, I need to expand my business. I need to get these many cars. Because success is defined by how much material expansion you get. Your heart kicks in and says, yeah, this is a good idea. I'm attracted to this. And what happens then? Because your aql and heart are talking about an attraction that's material, your irada comes in and says, yeah, now what do? We need to do all we can so that we can maximize our material gain. So your aql has made a fundamental mistake over here into thinking that perfection lies in material growth as opposed to spiritual growth. So we need to be a bit careful with this. Okay, so we have another story. I don't know how much more time I have. 10 minutes? Okay, so this story might make it a bit clear. Have you heard of the story of Barsisa, the monk? Okay, so inshallah this might help us, and how Sheikh Shaitan gave him some sincere advice, and there's a reason why he's a sheikh in this story. So Barsisa was a monk during the time of Bani Israel, okay, and he was very pious, very spiritual, and everybody in that town knew that, oh, if you have any problem, you should go to Barsisa. He's very close to Allah, he's very close to God. So one day what happened was, 3 brothers wanted to go for jihad. So they come to Barsisa because they have a sister and they don't want to leave the sister alone. So they're thinking, what do we do now? We can't go to jihad and we can't leave our sister alone. So they say, okay, let's do one thing. Let's leave our sister with Barsisa. So they go to Barsisa and they say, look, we're going for jihad. We need you to take care of our sister. But because he's so pure and so pious, he says, Ma'adallah, like, I can't keep your sister, please go. And these brothers say, okay, fine, they leave. Now Shaitan, that's how he starts his business. Comes to Barsisa. He tells him, Barsisa, these guys are going for jihad in the way of Allah. If you don't help them, who is going to help them? Just take their sister. Now Barsisa is thinking, yeah, it's true, they're going for a good cause. Let me help him. So he accepts the sister because he lives in a temple. But he says, okay, I won't stay with this lady in my house. I'm going to have another house outside. Let her stay there. So the lady comes. Every day he cooks food and he leaves it outside his door. So the lady has to walk all the way from her house to the door of Barsisa to take food. So Shaitan, this is how he works. He just wants you to open the door when he knocks. He doesn't want you to open it completely because he has all the time in the world. He just wants you to accept his invitation and then he starts his work. So a few days later, Shaitan comes to Barsisa again and he says, Barsisa, this woman has to walk all the way from her house to the temple. Then a mahram will see her. This is not good. Why don't you leave the food closer to her house? Good idea. Barsisa takes the food. Now he leaves it on her door. He knocks the door and he leaves. Okay, this goes on for a few days. Shaitan comes again. He says, Barsisa, still she has to open the door and take it so people can still see her. Okay, why don't you leave it inside the house? Okay, makes sense? So he knocks the door, leaves it inside the house. Shaitan is not done yet. A few days later, things continue. He says, Barsisa, her brothers are not yet back from jihad. She has nobody to talk to. Okay, she might die of depression, for example. Talk to her. Barsisa says, okay. So what he does, he talks to her from outside the house. He doesn't enter inside to talk. He talks from outside. So after a few days, Shaitan is saying, Barsisa, you're making a fool out of yourself. You have to shout on top of your voice. Why don't you just go inside the house and talk to her? Barsisa thinks, yeah, makes sense. So what was once a small conversation now starts becoming a bigger conversation. A bigger conversation. And you know what happened next? He fell into the sin, basically. He committed the wrong sin with this woman. But Shaitan wasn't yet happy with this. So Shaitan comes to Barsisa and says, and this lady became pregnant, yeah? So she got a child, a baby boy. So Shaitan comes to Barsisa and says, Barsisa, you think this boy is over here. When the brothers come, what is this sister going to do? So you need to do something. So Barsisa says, what should I do? So he says, kill the baby. Okay, Barsisa kills the baby. This goes on, then Shaitan comes again. Shaitan's not yet done, yeah? So Shaitan tells Barsisa, you think this woman's going to keep quiet? What do I do? Kill the woman as well. He kills the woman and the brothers come back from jihad. They ask Barsisa, thank you very much, Barsisa, where is our sister? So he says, oh, she was very ill and she died. So he takes them to a fake grave and shows them that she was buried there. They make dua for her and they leave. Now, the story is not yet over. The brothers go home and that night they get a dream. One of the brothers, the next day he says, I got a dream that my sister wasn't actually ill, but she got murdered and she got a baby boy. And the other brother is saying, yes, I got the same dream. So now they're thinking, oh, so what has this Barsisa done? So they go to the place where they saw in their dream, where they were buried. And they dig it up and they see there is a woman and a child buried there. So now they say, we need to take this guy to the ruler, let him get executed. So now, Barsisa is going to be killed. So remember, he's already committed zina. He's already committed 2 murders. He's already lied about their graves. He was a pious man, Barsisa. Just few moments ago, few days ago, he was very pious. So he commits these sins and now he needs to be executed. So on his way to the execution, Shaitan comes again. But this time he comes as a human being. He says, Barsisa, do you know who I am? Barsisa says, no. He says, I'm Shaitan who put you in this mess, but I'm also the one who can remove you from this mess. He says, how? I'm going to be executed. Nothing can be done. Shaitan says, something can be done. What? You need to do sajda to me. Okay? I need to know. I don't want to be executed. Barsisa prostrates before Shaitan. Shaitan says, it was nice knowing you, brother. Leaves him. He gets executed. What does this story teach us? Our iman is not secure. We need to always safeguard our iman. Someone like Barsisa, over here, his intellect made a mistake. What was the mistake? He thought that the advice given to Shaitan was real. He took the wrong piece of advice. So even however pious you are, we need to always be constantly on the watch that our actions are in line. How do we do that? So we need to learn more from the Ahlul Bayt. We need to learn more from the Holy Quran. And because our Imam is not present with us, we need people to explain us the message of the Holy Quran. We need people to tell us about the ahadith of the Ahlul Bayt. What do these actually mean? So we need our scholars who have devoted their lives for Islam to guide us. And indeed, these scholars do get guided from the Holy Imam. Like there's a very short story. So, still got 5 minutes. There's a very short story by Sheikh Mufid, who was a great marja during his time. Okay, and how he met the Imam. So what happened was, someone comes to the office of Sheikh Mufid and tells him, my wife was pregnant and she died. But the baby, the doctors are saying, is still alive. So what do we do? So Sheikh Mufid, do we cut the body of the wife and remove the baby? Now Sheikh Mufid, because of his understanding of Islam, that cutting of the body is not permitted at that time. So he says, no, just bury the baby and the mother the way they are. Okay, this person leaves Sheikh Mufid's office. On his way out, he meets a man. And the man tells him, I've been sent by Sheikh Mufid. And he says, you shouldn't bury them like that. Cut the body and remove the baby. He says, really? He says, yeah, do that. Removes the baby. Okay. After a few months, this person, his baby survived. So he's carrying a baby and he's going to Sheikh Mufid. He tells Sheikh Mufid, my wife died. I was so sad, but thank you so much for sending that messenger to tell me that my baby is alive. Because look, after 5 months, I'm enjoying, like, this baby is so beautiful, whatever he's saying. So Sheikh Mufid is confused. I didn't send, nobody is thinking to himself, that was the Imam. So Sheikh Mufid, when he realized this, he said, Sheikh Mufid's office is closed from now. I'm not going to issue any fatwa. The Imam writes him a letter. Oh Sheikh Mufid, don't do this. Continue doing what you're doing. You're on the right path. We are there to help you. As long as you're sincere, we are there to help you. So our scholars do get guided by the Imam. It's up to us to listen to the instructions, and inshallah this will take us to reality. And on that note, we need to make sure our irada is the irada of the Imam. So in Dua Ahad we recite, وَالسَّابِقِينَ إِلَىٰ إِرَادَةِ. It shouldn't be that our irada is what we want, but what our Imam wants, inshallah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to practice this. I know all of you, inshallah, are already doing it, but if we aren't, then we should do more, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah. Ahsanta.
Ahsant.